much for election integrity right now.
Well, let's get a drink.
I've never done one of these, so I don't know what I should do.
It's rapid fire, we understand. I've noticed, again, as a potential constituent of yours, you came out early in the campaign very negative against our current county commissioner. I received many of the things on social media. My question is, I think we need a degree of consensus and leadership and bringing people together. And I understand that campaigns may be different than, how you lead. And so my question is how are you going to reconcile that? You come out very negative against our current county commissioner. How are you going to bring consensus, especially understanding that you're going to be in the minority on the court? And, how do you convince me and the rest of the people in the room that you can be the leader that we need, knowing that you came out very negative to begin with, and how are you going to reconcile that going forward?
You say negative, I say truthful.
Well, yeah. And I agree with you. I think the perception of negative comes when the primary process is bypassed, because at the end of the day, that's where everybody's vetted. And so Brent Moody, through his own fortune, made it there through the precinct vote. Obviously with the way the precinct lines are drawn, it was an easy general election. And at the end of the day, we're not being negative. Our issue is with Brent Moody's record on the issues. And everything we put out is fact-based and supported.
Chris, I'm going to ask you on property taxes. I'm going to bring CPS and SAWs into this too. So both the property tax burden and then also what CPS and SAWs deal with. Both these end up being essentially taxes on citizens in the county. So give us your perspective on the property tax burden that exists currently. What are things that could actually be done to alleviate some of the burden on homeowners of what property taxes become? And then how would you handle CPS and SAWs? What are the things that you think the county can do to deal with CPS and SAWs and their increasing rates?
Well, I think first and foremost is we need county commissioners who don't pass $3 billion budgets. And the reason I say that is because we're sitting on, and again, it's very hard because the county is not transparent. That's the number one issue I have. Their last quarterly investment report was put out in December of 2022. So we don't even know where they have $48 million of our money invested. So the spending, we're going to have to reconcile at some point with almost $2 billion in debt, the desire to provide property tax relief, and the desire to maintain spending levels. And the problem where I see that is we're doing what they do in Washington, D.C., and I'll segue into that with take this Dare County Health District property tax or homestead exemption they gave us. Okay, that sounds great. Historic $70 million tax break, which comes out to about $110 for the average homeowner, which the commissioners or the appraisal services will do everything they can to wipe that out as soon as possible. But while giving you that $70 million tax break, simultaneously, they let the university health system take on hundreds of millions of dollars of new debt to increase capacity, which a lot of that capacity is going to be used for illegal immigrants. We all know it. I mean, that's who's there right now. So the push, I think, to reduce property taxes is we're going to have to reduce the spending. That I just don't see any other way around it than reducing the spending. Because if we don't reduce spending, we're going to have to increase the debt. When it comes to CPS and SAWs, one thing I've stated numerous times is there are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of customers that are in the service area of CPS and SAWs but don't live in the city. So we have no representation. So one, I truly feel the county needs a seat at the table on the board of CPS and SAWs. I find it preposterous that CPS remits $436 million to the city of San Antonio, but the county gets nothing out of that. And at the end of the day, as you, the ratepayer, are you getting the best deal? But most importantly, why I feel that seat is important is how do they spend the money? The money, obviously, we went through Snowmageddon, we went through, all these cataclysmic events that we never went through prior to the past couple of years is all that excess money. We don't need to be offering welfare programs where small percentages of the payers don't have to pay, and we pay a fee every month to uplift, or I think it's called uplift. That money needs to be allocated. We need to be building out infrastructure. We need to be expanding. We need to be weatherizing. We need to put the money back into the infrastructure, and we definitely don't need to be shutting down the coal plants. And I think we have a seat on the board, assuming that we get the right person on that seat, which I will grant you probably wouldn't be me. But hopefully, at least then as commissioners, we would have sway over that individual.
So we have a growing community of much of which will, in terms of the growth of Barrett County and our community is going to be outside the city of San Antonio. So there's a huge need from an infrastructure standpoint on how we are going to, stay ahead of that development and growth and opportunity. Obviously, the county being a huge part of the funding for our infrastructure. And I will say this is somewhat of a shameless question because I'm in trucking as well. So infrastructure lives very closely, to me in the needs of my company, but also myself as a citizen of this community. My question to you is, what are your top 3 to 5 priorities in terms of infrastructure? Because, as a potential county commissioner, infrastructure and infrastructure funding is a huge part of our budget in the county. So what would you say are, in your opinion, the most essential operational needs from an infrastructure standpoint for our community, and what would you prioritize in that effort?
Well, the first thing is nobody can live without water. So we have to get the water situation under control. And I don't personally believe that we have a shortage of water as often stated around here. I think we have a lot of corruption within our water. So that would be one thing, is to work with SAWs and the various CCNs and familiarize myself more with that process to ensure that the water infrastructure is there and the pump stations, everything is weatherized, the generators work, everything like that. The next would be sewer, and we'll bring up the Timwood Park issue, Guajolote Ranch, which they wanted to dump 4 million gallons of treated sewage a day in Lotus Creek. I mean, here in Precinct 3, which would be the only infrastructure projects I would be worried about, would be to reconcile where can we really keep expanding to, and to what extent can we do it, given the Edwards Aquifer, given the recharge zone. And I make my living in development, so I want us to develop, and I want us to grow. But I want us to grow intelligently and with a plan that won't create a set of problems we're going to have to deal with 20 years down the road. Obviously, where we live in Precinct 3 on the north side, I think we all drove around town with the rain last week. And it's little things when it comes to infrastructure. I noticed we're TxDOT. Even though that's TxDOT, as the county commissioner, I would still drive through that job and see things, and I'd have no problem calling the TxDOT inspector and say, what do you think you're doing? Between Blanco Road and Heavener, they poured all this in-place barrier there, and they put no drainage whatsoever. So you literally had 15-foot deep water along the access road for just purely an oversight or lack of management. And that's where, when you talk about infrastructure, I think it's being aware of all the infrastructure projects, not just the ones that the county's doing, that will really help us build out efficiently and effectively.
Chris, and we're going to try to end tonight a little early because you've done a great job, and we have another debate to get to. So why don't you close us out and tell people, just in closing, if there's anything that you don't feel like you've been able to cover, any issues we didn't touch on that you wanted to share with everybody, but we're just going to give you 3 minutes here to close out.
And if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about you as well. Sound like you have a lot of background in business. Want to learn more about what you do in business and in that closing.
So, I graduated from A&M in 2012. I went to work at Frost Bank as a credit and equities analyst. I thought that was the route I wanted to go down, and then I had to sit in an office for 8 hours a day, and I was like a dog that had been in a kennel for 6 months. I just couldn't take it. At that time, the Eagleford Shell was raging, and there was something about that was very attractive to me. I like the fast pace, the take the risk, the commerce, and everything. Well, you're contributing to American energy independence. I had a customer that I dealt with across that was independently wealthy through other businesses. That he had 10,000 acres in Runge, so you can imagine how much more wealthy he became. And through that, he decided he was in the trucking industry too. That he wanted to be the king of the oil field, and so he partnered with some guys. And I ended up the guys he partnered with. They had so much money coming in, nobody was managing the books. And I said, "How are we? Your accounts are continually overdrawn $200,000-$300,000." I was like, "I know you had the money." And so he finally said, "Well, I'll pay you a lot of money to leave Cross, and you come make sure they don't get overdrawn." And I said, "Good deal." So I left Cross, and 2 weeks after I left was when oil went from $97 a barrel to $43 a barrel. So I went from going to be a controller of sorts to now I was a salesman, a dispatcher, a general manager, everything short of being the janitor, which I might have even done that. I worked so many hours I couldn't remember. I ended up getting the whole thing stabilized. We lost a lot of business. I spent a lot of time in Houston, picked up that business. I got everything stabilized, got assets sold off. I got the partnership split, which part of it went through bankruptcy. And I've always told people that I think a big part of my success has been if you really want to know how to make a business work, you should put one out of business before you do it. So you kind of steal the tricks of the trade.
We don't always want to do that.
Do it on somebody else's time. And so from there, there was nothing much left for me. I knew they were going to eventually sell all the assets off. And so a lot of guys that had worked for us as independent owner operators, I asked them, I said, "What are y'all going to do?" And they said, "Well, we're going to go buy aggregate trailers. We're going to haul them the highway and new residential and commercial construction business in San Antonio." And they said, "By the way, why don't you go get to work and pay us every week, and you figure out how to get paid from those guys to give you the work." And I said, "Okay, well, we'll do that." I had no idea what I was doing. Well, we started off just hauling material from the local quarries and that stuff to our job sites. But somehow I managed to do $1 million my first year. On my second year, I had done $3 million. And from there, we got close to 5. And I started noticing that I needed to differentiate myself from the other companies and offer another product line. And so that's when we got into our own material pits where we dig what they call select fill, which is an alternative to the stuff that comes out of the quarries you see along 1604. And we have had our hand in every project in Precinct 3 and the largest projects in Bexar County. If something gets delivered to your door from Amazon, we put the building is built on top of my material. If you drive over a new bridge on I-10 on either side of town, that material either came from one of my pits or came out of the back of my trucks. It's been very rewarding. I really care about the guys that started with me, stuck with me, and they're still with me. And what's been most rewarding is seeing how a lot of these guys who started with one truck and trailer, and I talked to them on the phone at 4 in the morning, and it's 20 degrees outside, and changing an airline on the road. A lot of those guys now, they have 3, 4, 5 trucks and trailers, and guys working for them, they still work under me. And one of the guys is building a $600,000 house, and he told me, he was like, "I never thought I'd move out of the apartment I lived on in Southwest Military Drive." And I just don't feel that our city and our county, everybody always says, "Oh, if I had to start today, I wouldn't make it." But I see it, because I see the people that are trying to start, they're doing the same things, they're putting in the hours, they're taking the risk, and they're not making it. And a lot of that, I believe, is because of our local city and county government, and that's what I hope to get in there to change. And I think that's the best thing for dealing with the other Democrats on the court, is the happier they can make their constituents, the longer they get to stay elected. So.
Thank you, Chris.
Well, we're moving right along, and I've never met a crowd or a group of people that hated to see a meeting end early. So we're headed in that direction. Joe Garza asked me to announce that we have these In God We Trust plaques available at the Republican Party Bexar County site in the back there. So if anybody's interested in that, please step over, and they've got them for you. Now,
this video brought to you for educational purposes from the San Antonio Family Association.
I think it's become difficult for us to really run the bar and collect funds. So we're going to open the bar, and unless somebody can step up and say there's a better answer, we've got plenty of donated stuff. So when we take a break,
Two
please
of
help
these is one
yourself.
of
We've got
these.
beer,
And I'm red,
wine,
red.
and cocktails. And then in the back we have tacos, soda pop, and water. But before we do that, I want to thank Chris Coons for being here earlier. She's not here to stand up, but she is running for chair of the Republican Party of Bexar County. She had another event she needed to attend before we got to this point, so I wanted to thank Chris Coons for her attendance. Second, Jared Stubbs, would you please stand up and just your name and what you're running for?
Good evening. My name is Jared Tubbs. I've been here in the precinct for quite a while, 16, 18 years, and I'm running for Bexar County Constable, Precinct 3.
We've also been honored to have Brendan Herrera join us running, and he will tell you who he's running for or against or whatever.
Thank you, Jeff. My name is Brandon Herrera. I am running for Congress for Texas District 23 against Tony Gonzalez. I figured somebody had to do it.
And he'll be here a week from today. And I want to thank 9:30 a.m. The Answer radio station for helping us. Thank you, Jack. And Talk Low Law Radio with, I got too much going on here. I can't remember. Todd? Oh, I got it. Todd, would you introduce yourself, please?
Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt, where I talk about the law on the radio.
Chad, would you introduce yourself also, please?
Sure, I'm Chad Gamage. I'm the general manager for Single Media Group here in San Antonio, 9:30 a.m. The Answer. And we are pleased to be here. Thank you so much for your attendance.
And with that, we'll take a 15-minute break. And I think the bartenders can hear me. And if anybody wants a drink, please just give it to them. And if somebody wants to make a donation for the cocktail, please do so. Otherwise, it's on the house tonight. We'll reconvene in about 15 minutes. Thank you very much.
In this video brought to you through the San Antonio Famous Association for Education Purposes only, for the Bear GOP debate on February 1st, Thursday, February 1st, 2021, in preparation for the primary election on March 1st,
I
2024.
mention a very important person in this whole project. Her name is Hannah McManus. That's my wife. And she has been incredibly supportive and very, very helpful. Thank you, Hannah.